Does loneliness ever take hold of you? Do you sometimes feel empty even when surrounded by crowds? What if I told you there are ways to turn that loneliness into an opportunity? For thousands of years, Stoic philosophy has been teaching us how to deal with loneliness. Are you ready to discover how Dexter transformed his loneliness and the 6 golden rules for overcoming it? Perhaps you'll find yourself on this journey too. Dexter was a man lost in the chaos of the big city. He worked, returned home, and spent his days in an empty routine. Even though he spent plenty of time on social media trying to get likes, he couldn't find true friendships or deep connections. For him, loneliness wasn't just a silence, it had become an inner noise. In the sleepless nights when he questioned his life, he couldn't stop asking the same question: what's wrong? Stoicism taught him 6 golden rules for transforming the feeling of loneliness in his life. Now, let's take a step together into Dexter's journey. First rule: make peace with yourself. Loneliness starts from within. The biggest challenge in Dexter's fight against loneliness was his relationship with himself. No matter how social he was in the outside world, he always felt incomplete and insufficient on the inside. Despite having a good circle of friends and a successful career, he was restless within. Because, while he was trying to maintain good relationships with everyone outside, he forgot one crucial thing: being at peace with himself. Stoicism taught him, you can't form healthy bonds with others without being at peace with yourself. Loneliness wasn't just a physical state. The real issue was being alone in one's inner world. Dexter constantly criticized himself, magnified his mistakes, and replayed his failures in his mind. This inner criticism was the biggest source feeding his loneliness. One day, as he was scrolling through his friends' lives on social media, he felt incomplete again. Everyone is so happy, their lives are so perfect, he thought. But with Stoic wisdom, he began to question these thoughts. Really? He asked himself. Am I making these big judgments just based on what I see from the outside? Stoicism teaches that appearances can be deceiving. This realization made Dexter reconsider his thoughts. From that moment, he shut off social media and decided to turn inward. Instead of constantly looking at others' lives, he started focusing on his own values and potential. Making peace with himself was the first step toward building healthy relationships with others. He no longer saw loneliness as an enemy, but as an opportunity to explore his inner world. Without making peace with myself, I can't form real connections with anyone outside, he thought. During this process, Dexter learned to accept his mistakes and be more compassionate toward himself. The first step to overcoming loneliness was to accept himself as he was and find inner peace. This awareness created a huge transformation in Dexter's life. As he began to love himself, he realized that the happiness he had been searching for outside was actually within, and this led to the gradual fading of his loneliness. Second rule: stop searching for happiness outside. True connections come from within. For a long time, Dexter sought happiness from people and events outside himself. A good group of friends, great parties, success at work. He thought these things would cure his loneliness. But Stoicism taught him, true happiness and connection aren't found outside. They come from within. One evening, feeling lonely again, he remembered this Stoic advice. He asked himself, why am I always looking for a savior outside? He realized that the key to overcoming loneliness wasn't out there. It was in him. He decided to explore his inner world, discover his values, and start building deeper, not superficial connections with others. This became a pivotal awareness that changed Dexter's perspective on life. Third rule: filter out negative thoughts. Loneliness is just a feeling. Whenever Dexter thought he was lonely, his mind immediately wrote the worst scenarios. Nobody loves me. I've failed in life. I'll never be close to anyone again. were the kinds of negative thoughts that kept swirling around in his head. But Stoicism taught him to question these thoughts. It's not the events, but your reactions to them that affect you. One day, when negative thoughts started to consume his mind, he stopped and began to question them. Does nobody really love me? Or is this just a story I'm creating in my mind? Stoic wisdom reminded him that loneliness is just a feeling, and like all feelings, it's temporary. As he filtered out his negative thoughts, he realized that part of his loneliness was just an illusion in his mind. From that moment on, he focused more on controlling his mind. Fourth rule: build genuine connections. Friendship is about quality, not quantity. One of Dexter's biggest mistakes was trying to make too many friends. He thought the more people he knew, the less lonely he'd feel. But Stoics taught him, true friendship is about quality, not quantity. One day, while surrounded by dozens of people at a party, he realized he still felt lonely. At that moment, he understood. Having many people around didn't make him less lonely. True friendship was about forming deep connections. He started to evaluate people based on their sincerity, not their numbers. Even if he had fewer friends, he found that those friendships were much more valuable. Superficial connections don't give me anything, he thought, and he began focusing on building real, meaningful relationships. Fifth rule: help others. Connection comes from sharing. Dexter realized that his loneliness stemmed from a lack of meaningful interactions with others. But this wasn't just about talking. It was about helping others and sharing something valuable. Stoicism taught him, helping others is one of the strongest ways to overcome loneliness. One day, feeling lonely, he decided to volunteer at a local charity in his neighborhood. As he helped those in need, he realized how powerful it felt to touch others' lives. He saw that helping and sharing brought people closer together, and that loneliness actually disappeared the more he gave. Now, he not only cared about his own happiness, but also the happiness of others. And in the process, he was learning to overcome his loneliness. Sixth rule: clear your mind. Meditation and deep breathing strengthen inner connection. Dexter's mind was constantly filled with thoughts of loneliness. His mind was so cluttered that finding peace seemed impossible. But Stoic philosophy taught him ways to clear his mind. Don't let your mind control you. You control your mind. One day, feeling lost in his loneliness, he took a deep breath and tried to empty his mind. He began meditating, calming the chaos in his mind through deep breathing. When he realized that loneliness was just an illusion in his mind, he started to relax. As he learned to control his mind, his feeling of loneliness also started to fade. Now, every day, he practices short meditations to clear his mind and notices that he feels more at peace. Instead of getting lost in thoughts of loneliness, he can push them into the background. Through the teachings of Stoic philosophy, Dexter learned to see loneliness not as an enemy, but as a teacher. He succeeded in making peace with himself, stopped searching for happiness outside, and built genuine connections. Loneliness was no longer a source of fear, but became a part of his life. Stoicism showed him that overcoming loneliness wasn't just about connecting with others, but also about forming a bond with oneself. And you? How do you deal with loneliness? If you found yourself in Dexter's story, share your thoughts in the comments. Discover how Stoic philosophy can help you transform loneliness in your own life.